Okay, so welcome class. So this is construction methods and project management. I am Engineer Ranjan Argami, and last time we had discussed about decision making, construction pre-planning, and today we are going to have the PERT CPM. So the PERT CPM. So what is PERT and what is CPM? So PERT is an abbreviation for Program Evaluation and Review Technique, while that of CPM is the critical path method. PERT and CPM were developed independently in the later part of 1950s. These are two networks, a technique used for planning and coordinating large-scale projects. Of course, on the network, we can view the sequence of the activities, the time duration, and the responsible key person to achieve a certain project. CPM was designed as a tool for planning, scheduling, and control of construction work. So this was already mentioned previously in our discussion, wherein we plan and then we put it into schedule. And of course, the most important part is control. So we see to it that we implement appropriately and smoothly according to the plan and schedule. So PERT developed as a result of looking for an improved method of planning and evaluating progress of a large-scale research and development program. So actually, nagsimula to out of research and development. It was designed to provide the management a periodic reporting. So when we say periodic, so it could be monthly basis, quarterly basis, or as you desired, okay, on the progress of your project. So it is an outlook for the future on meeting approved plans and schedule. So there are milestones in your plan. So these milestones are actually the activities that have been achieved that that is very essential in the overall accomplishment of the project. So it answers the question such as, is this feasible schedule? And what are the probabilities of making it? In short, may mga strategy tayo para ma-implement smoothly yung project. Because to tell you, a project without a plan, no, parang walang direksyon. Kasi hindi mo namamalayan, umaandar na yung oras, ang araw, at ang buwan, eh hindi mo pa na-reach yung desired goal mo. Okay? So the basis, the ultimate basis is always according to the plan. And remember, that plan is always flexible, ano? Flexible according to the conditions and events or uncontrolled events, no? So, unforeseen contingencies ng plan, of course, plano pa rin, magiging flexible na. Some adjustments will be made. PERT and CPM is a control tool for defining the parts of construction job and then putting them together in a network form. So, graphical lang ang presentation. It serves as an aid to the construction manager. It serves the project manager to see the whole picture of the entire job. So of course, later on, we will discuss the construction methods. Iba yung method sa paggawa ng bridges. iba yung method sa paggawa ng dams, iba yung method ng paggawa ng building. So meaning, there are sequence that we need to follow. And out of that sequence, may mga activities na pwede ring isabay. So these are called non-critical activities. So yung critical activities are those activities, major activities, which actually, if delayed na yung project. So later on, we will further elaborate on that. So PERTs and CPM also encourages periodic re-evaluation and providing an accurate measure of progress. So, pro-project natin kung ilang percentage na. Of course, this is according to field measurements, no? Like quantities of volume in excavation, area in, for example, plastering or fabrication of forms and installation of forms, and then linear meter for erection of vertical structures. So, sa ano naman, sa RSB, of course, we can measure that through weight, or kilograms, or if you want, per piece. PERT and CPM. With the use of PERT CPM, the project manager can easily obtain the following information. Number one, the graphical display of project activities. So in my previous slide, I've shown you an example of a Gantt chart. So, ang Gantt chart kasi very simple siya, wherein makikita mo yung nag-overlapping ng mga activities, and then kailan papasok yung isang event or activities. Number two, an estimate of how long will the project last. Of course, the duration. Number three, determine which activities are the most critical to timely project completion. So, of course, we are more interested on the critical activities. At yung mga critical activities, when summed up, that is what we call the critical path. And then number four, determine how long any activity can be delayed without lengthening the project. So later on, we'll discover about the slack time. So this is the leeway time for an event to happen. Of course, yun yung tinatawag na slack. So of course, slack is a leeway. So kung na-delay yung slack, yung mga activities within the slack time, hindi maapektuhan yung project. Okay? So saka lang maapektuhan yung project dun sa mga critical activities. So very basic. So in here, on the PERT CPM, we have the three phases. Number one, planning. Of course, this is where we enumerate or list all the activities, sa kaliit-liitan man, activities up to the major activities. So, in planning, of course, we also base our plan in our resources. Remember that we do not plan na wala sa resources. Kaya nga diniscuss natin yung 5 elements of an organization. Number 2, scheduling. So in our scheduling, of course, we estimate the productivity of the desired manpower according to the resources. Ano? Kung 15 sila, ilan yung kaya nilang gawin sa isang araw. So with that, we can project the duration of each of the activities. So how to do that? There are certain data from the previous project or construction projects, no, na nade-determine yung productivity rate. So individually, it could be individually or it could be within a gang. So when we say a gang, isang team sila, iba actually yung output nila. So as yung members of the gang will increase, of course, um, ma-optimize yung kanilang productivity because of the element of the teamwork. Number 3, control, monitor. So we control and we monitor. So how can we control if we do not uh, make site observations, evaluation, and assessment? Of course, dapat everyday yan. Yung project engineer should know uh, the progress, okay, according to the plan. Of course, kung may certain problems man, uh, it can be addressed immediately. So that is very important because once na nagkamali, sabihin ko sa inyo, sa isang embedded items lang sa project, of course, pag hindi nabantayan yan, like nag-embed sila ng tubo and then those water lines palpak, I mean, hindi maganda yung pagkaka-install or pagkakakabit-kabit, later on, magli-leak, di ba? So, problema, pag nag-leak na yon, mahirap nang i-repair because nakabaon na or it was embedded already on certain structural elements, no? So, again, here, prevention is better than cure. So, what are the specific information that could be provided by the CPM? So, number 1, PERT CPM pinpoints the particular work operations whose completion times are responsible for controlling the complete. Number 2, it provides a means of speeding up project without excessive cost for overtime. So again, in here, it could be demonstrated on a certain example wherein we are going to level the manpower. Okay? First, una, determine muna natin yung critical path. Okay? And determine the slack time. And then events are presented in a graphical form. And then we crash. So the term crash. The term crash is to optimize the available resources, no? I-shorten mo yung time um, without adding cost. So parang nalilito na kayo because paano mo pa bibilisan kung if it does not involve additional cost? Of course, pag-aaralan natin 'yan later. Number 3, it gives a time leeway or float. Okay? So, yung float, yun din yung slack na sinasabi ko kanina. So, float available for each of the non-critical work operations. So, another information, it establishes time boundaries for operations with possibilities of shifting resources, equipment, and manpower to meet time requirements. So, maganda rito, pag may kasabay na project, of course, you can schedule your equipment utilization and manpower operation or like swapping the schedule with the other project. Pwede yun gawin, possible. Okay? That is to optimize your resources. The number 5, the PERT CPM indicates the earliest starting date for each work of operations and subcontracts for supply and delivery of materials. So, generally, yung PERT CPM, i-dictate niya rin kung kailan dapat i-deliver yung necessary material and physical plant as well as equipment requirements of the project. So another information, it shows the most advantageous scheduling for all operations. So kitang-kita mo, no, kung anong pinaka dapat na activities to be to have focus on, no? Number 7, it offers a means of assessing the effect of overall project variations in one operations such as change order. Of course, variation order or change order, hindi maiiwasan yan. This is to address also unforeseen contingencies present on the project site, no? So, mag-a-adjust ka ng plano accordingly. Of course, pag-adjust mo ng plano, adjust ka rin ng schedule through PERT CPM. Number 8. In case of change order where the owner would not want to extend the contract time, PERT CPM offers a means of rescheduling the operations but still to be completed at the least increase in cost. By the way, class, time duration is so important in a certain construction project. Why? There are certain substantial economic implications once na na-delay yung project. For example, if your client is a business entity like SM or mall, no? Yung SM, mas gugustuhin pang mas malaki yung project cost kaysa doon sa matagal na construction, di ba? So, it's not always the case na pag matagal yung construction, konti yung expenses. Actually, pag mabilis natapos ang project, ma-optimize yung resources. Why? Because first of all, when you are a construction firm, ma-minimize yung utilization mo ng temporary facilities. Of course, pag may temporary facilities ka, expenses yan ng like water supply, car rent, and then the rent, okay, tatagal yung renta mo versus na kung matapos mo ng maaga yung project. So another thing is that pag tumagal, marami kang papakainin, of course, marami ka ring susweldohan. Actually, mas malaki yung loss pag na-delay yung project. Number 9. With the critical path schedule as revised to reflect the change order, any claim, if any, for additional payment will be understood both by the owner and the contractor. So, what I'm trying to point out a while ago about dun sa pagpapabilis or fast-tracking the project without additional cost, pwede yan with crashing, no? But there are certain limitations of project crashing or event crashing na tinatawag. You still need to have an additional cost. Of course, kapag may change order like the increase in quantity, of course there will be a corresponding increase on the cost. Okay? And yun, kapag madali nating explain sa client if we have the information provided by the PERT CPM. Number 10. In case of serious delay due to weather, late material or equipment delivery, the network can be revised at that stage and new computation is made to determine the new critical operation, if any, and revised float times determined for the non-critical operations. So again, ang ibig sabihin lang yan, PERT CPM is always flexible at any stage of the construction. So let us define each of the phases of PERT CPM. Number 1, planning, is defined as determining the relationship between the work operation and the sequence in which they are to be performed. So each of the activity will have the start date and the end date. So the inputs obtained in the planning phase. So we need the network diagram defining the activities in the project. So yung network, it is described by the arrows that represent the linking of each event or activities. Number 2, the duration of activities. Sabi nga natin, estimate mo kung with how many days matatapos ang isang certain activities. Of course, all the basis will be the measurement, okay, according to the plans. Number 3, cost estimates of the activities for monitoring cost, cash flow, requirements. So aside from the construction cost, meron tayong monitoring costs and other incidental expenses. Of course, with the presence of the PERT CPM, those costs will be projected. The number 4, resources estimates. So yun, we have already elaborated this na we can schedule the equipment utilization as well as the manpower. Number 5, trade indicators, responsibility for activity grouping. Of course, there are switching of the responsibilities. Okay? Like for example, we do not maintain um, stillman for all the duration of the project. Okay? Over the duration of the project. Of course, yung stillman, pwede silang mag-switch na maging skilled sila or something like carpenter or tile setter. So, at least alam mo kung ano ang dapat mong i-recruit, right? So if it is a combination of a stillman or two talents in one, okay? Pwede yun. So trade indicators. Planning is the most important consideration, which includes gathering of all necessary input data to make the PERT CPM works. Of course, dapat maging smart, no? A specific, measurable, um, attainable, realistic, and time-bounded. So number 2, planning phase is the main work of the contractor for being familiar and knowledgeable of his costing methods for doing business. Of course, out of his previous experiences in the construction. So, ang mas nakakaalam is yung contractor. Okay? Or the key personnel who have been exposed to the similar construction works. Kaya nga sa government project, it is required that the eligible contractor, no, ang pwede lang sumali sa isang project ay yung at least may 50% similar experience, no. So yung contractor may similar experience on the project to be bid na at least 50% of the project cost. Like for example, a dam project. Okay? So hindi pwede na yung contractor mo limited lang sa landscaping project or sa horizontal project. So dapat may experience siya sa mega structures. Okay? So something that is similar in nature. Number 3, the contractor can seek assistance for the accomplishment of his work, particularly the gathering of data. But his basic responsibility on this matter cannot be delegated to any outsider group. So, basically, of course, tutok dapat yung key personnel ang suitable na gumagawa nito. Okay? But, sabi dito, can seek assistance for evaluating his accomplishment. Okay? So, sa mga data, ano na bang natapos? Ano na bang nagawa? Ano na ba yung progress? But, in terms of supervision, no, hindi pwedeng ipasa yan sa another entity. So, the contractor has the complete perception, experiences, resources, and interest in getting the project done in the best possible time and cost. The planning stages give the contractor a dry run, no, on the construction of the project. Normally, with our technologies today, na sa-simulate na rin yung project phases. From the construction of the foundation, from the installation of piers, no? So, and then up to the uh, finishing touches of the project. Of course, makikita yan sa PERT CPM on the phases of the PERT CPM. If the contractor wants an effective approach and use of the construction management, he must do it by himself. No? Number 7. By performing the work personally, one obtains intimate first-hand knowledge of the job and gain insight and details of anticipated problems. So, part of the plan is the risk. Okay? So, remember na yung ginawa natin last time about the SWOT analysis is also part of planning. So, you scan your strength, the weakness, the opportunities, and the threats. And out of that weakness and threats or the negative attributes of the environment, we can anticipate certain problems. Of course, may nakahandang solution to address those anticipated problems. And this time, I also want to reiterate again na yung lahat ng threat and weakness cannot be addressed, no, with all of your resources. Meron tayong tinatawag na prioritization. So, prioritization, again, is derived from the probability of happening or what we call the likelihood and the impact. Okay? So, ano bang significant impact? Ano yung most significant impact na dapat mong i-address? Of course, you would not want to address all, no? So, if not, just minimize it. Number 2, the second phase is scheduling. Is defined as the process of translating the arrow diagram into timetable of calendar days. So, we put it in a matrix, no, yung network. So, it shows the relationship between the operations and the leeway limitations. The PERT CPM diagram should be updated periodically to account for, of course, may mga discrepancies in time, and of course, the schedule of deliveries, the weather. So of course, you project or incorporate the effect of weather. Of course, kung alam mo naman yung rainy season, so it should be associated already in the PERT CPM. And of course, change orders, this would force us to adjust. The number 5, unexpected events or conditions. So, 4 outputs obtained from schedule phase. The schedule of activities in the network showing the following. The critical activities. The earliest start date for each activities. The earliest finish date for each activities. And then the latest start date for each activity. And the latest finish date for each activity. So with the terms na meron tayong earliest start and its corresponding latest start. Okay? And the earliest finish with the corresponding latest finish. So with the earliest start and latest start, the difference between the two is actually the float or the slack time. The float, which refers to the amount of extra time available for an activity. Now, if the earliest start and latest start is the same, of course, your float will be equal to 0. So another output that could be obtained from the schedule phase is a bar chart or time scaled network. So arrow diagram network for the project. Another information or output, a resource analysis showing the number and kind of resources, manpower, equipment, and others that are required for each day of the project. So, alam mo na kung ilang tao ang i-deploy mo, anong equipment ang dapat mo ilagay sa site, and ano yung materials na dapat nasa site na. Okay? And number 4, cash requirement prediction indicating how much cash to be disbursed for the job and the amount of money that will be collected as a result of work accomplishment. So actually, this is very important. The projection of the financial requirement of your project. So the last phase of PERT CPM is controlling and monitoring. To keep the schedule more up to date and meaningful, it can be done by hand, but is more easier and less in cost if it is done with the assistance of computer to have the following output. So hindi na bago ang at computer or applications or software that is related to project management. So meron nga tayong MS Project, no? Meron din tayong Primavera. So those are just examples of software available in the market. So number 1, the contractor supplied with time status reports showing the overall status of the project in general and in particular. Number 2, the contractors provided with revised schedule which reflect the actual work conditions and the project status. Then the contractor supplied with cost status reports showing how much money is being disbursed for what type of expenses. Then number 4, the contractor should be supplied with those reports as frequently as desired or required to maintain control over the project. So if this controlling and monitoring could be done by hand, no, medyo tedious yung process because it entails a lot of coordination, especially the connection of the actual field accomplishment, and then linking it to the resources, linking it to the financial status. But if it is done with computer, it's very easy to evaluate or monitor the project progress. Next, we have the control monitor phase. Uses actual data which includes the following. Number 1, additions to the project. This refers to the new activities. So when there are variation order, change order, or extra work order na tinatawag. And then number 2, deletion from the project. Of course, if you find it that a certain activity would no longer be needed, you can delete that from your original PERT CPM. So in short, 1 and 2 are changes. Ano? Number 3, changes as to duration, description, trade indicators, cost estimates, or resource estimates. And then 4, actual starting dates. And 5, actual finishing dates. The output phase. It consists of the following. Actually, the output phase, kung na-evaluate mo na yung project mo, or the third phase was already done, so ito na yung magiging result. Number 1, time status report. Number 2, revised schedule. Number 3, revised bar chart or arrow diagram or network. So in most government projects, the accomplishment is presented by the statement of work accomplishment. So along with that, naka-attach din yung time elapse, no? So the time elapse reflects the percentage and nadidetermine din kung meron ng slippage. So yung slippage are the declining of the work accomplishment, no, according to the plan. So it is actually the slippage. It's the difference between the projected accomplishment or the planned accomplishment versus that of the actual work accomplishment. So mas maganda, nalampasan mo yung S-curve na tinatawag. So you have a positive slippage. So that ends chapter for today. And for the next session, we will discuss on the network diagram itself with examples. So with this, thank you for listening and have a good day.